Let's see here. Start stream. So what I like to do when I do this, very first thing, I'm just gonna go through here, just add a dot in front of everything. That this is going to do is it's going to send all of these data values to the end, so to speak. Because start with is a start by this word. See the little bar on the top. It's going to try what we're doing. So then we can see if we go back to Unit tab that those now have Z's. So any data values for them. Excuse me. Just gonna do this for the some buildings. So, shall we start with? I think we're gonna start by owning. How about the Gatling gun? And we're gonna make this speed or zero. So it's now going to be on top of our data sheet. So now we can take speeders here. Let's do here. Right now, this is just thing effects to data. Scroll down through the to sloths. Sloths rather. Now we hit test. It's going to instantly say it's got eliminated. So this is their humble beginnings. So next thing we're going to need to do, play around with the values. First and foremost, health. Health is not important. So we're actually going to go with, because get rid of the mana for right now. Set to 0. Supply 0. Movement speed. This is going to be something we view as important. So this one we'll set to 4 right now. Weapon cooldown 0. 0. Damage 0. Range can be 0 for right now. Again, we'll be changing that. Attack priority is going to be set to 0 for attack. Size is fine, image scale is fine, vision is fine. The next thing we're going to change is instead the 8, just right now. Not going to bother with aesthetics at this stage. The values we should get into. Acceleration here. So let's start with 2, 5, see. Let's see. Do you know what's wrong with it? Is it too loud, too quiet? Let's try this. Does it sound any better? Currently using headphones microphone. Any better? To get back to it for the moment, we just changed the speed value and the acceleration. It's currently a speed of 4. You'll see it takes a little bit longer to actually reach that maximum speed. Now, the same thing to slow down. Now let's try reducing the acceleration just a little bit. Let's try going with the modest point right now. And then we're going to compare that to a regular Gatling gun. Still seems like it's moving a bit too much. Here's a good test. If we set the speed back to 2.9, its original movement speed, see what effects our acceleration has. This tells me that we want a really small acceleration. So let's try 0.0, tenth of what we were just using. That might be a little bit too much, but just a little bit too much. Timedics are below. How's it going? Currently working on a map. Glad you could join us. See here. So we're going to change the acceleration back up a little bit. I think for right now, none of the values are final. So let's go with 0.05 and see how that works. Just a moment. Now we're going to set the speed to 4, so it's a higher max speed. This should again have another decent sized effect. See if we need to decrease acceleration just a little bit. Yeah, I'm gonna decrease that acceleration a little bit more. Let's see here. So we'll try 0.1 one more time. Sweet. So I think I like how that is so far. 0.1 might be the value to go for. Je ne parle espagnol timidexer, mais je parle français. So I'm not quite sure what your chats mean. It's the moral of the story. So the next value we're going to fiddle with is going to be the angular velocity. So let's start with the modest value of 1. See what effects this has. Seems to have negated the acceleration. Interesting, so let's try reducing the acceleration again. So we go here. I'm going to set the acceleration to, let's see what happens if we make it higher. Oh, timid. So how can you edit maps? The best way to edit maps, or the only way really, is if you're in the little wargame menu, there is a button. You just save this for a moment and I'll show you. I'll show you from start to finish. So we go here, we're gonna go with dot tests. Hit upload. What do you mean by my game? Maybe in a little bit. Right now I'm trying to work on this map just a little bit. So, to edit the map, once you're in the lobby, this is the lobby, you can go to the editor down here. Editor, wonderful tool. It's got a lot of stuff from a lot of people in it. I'm just gonna reload the map that I just was using. Go to dot tests. Right now, if you see in the top left of the screen, we've got a little progress bar there. We're going to try to work on a map. It's going to be a racing map. This is mostly to help demonstrate to people that some of the nuances, at least, of map maker and the editor. Let's try reducing the angular velocity as well. Oh, that did something. I can't call it good. So, the effect I'm trying to go for is kind of drifting effect. So, let's see if we can change this slightly. I think the angular velocity is conflicting with that a bit too much. So I'll actually change it to some absurdly high number, see how that affects. So we just tried a relatively low. This makes it like there's no difference at all. See here. So I think for right now... Oh, I'd love to hear them. Also, can you tell me how to pronounce your name? I don't want to be pronouncing it wrong. Is it Timidi? Okay. Just wanted to... Short. Yeah, feel free to list your suggestions. So we're going to reset so there's no angular velocity, and now we're going to go to the test. Now the acceleration is definitely way too slow, but this gives a lot more of that kind of drifting kind of thing I wanted to evolve here. I do think the acceleration is a little bit too low. We're going to have to wait to see a little bit more to see what exactly the map's going to be like. But for now, I think if we leave the acceleration down to 0.1, we'll be at a good start. Okay, so the next thing I want to check, now that we have this part done, I'm going to add in a couple more of these. We're going to see what effects lanes have with how far they move. The ones in the closer thing going to be able to get to their destination faster. This is going to be the real test right here. Yeah, so there's going to be a benefit being in the front then. I know these are moving at the exact same speed, so they should push in the same order. So now that we have our starting point here, Speed Racer, we're going to go into the data tab and we're going to start getting rid of the accessibilities we don't want the Speed Racer to have. As for right now, the only things we want it to have: stop and move. So with that, we're going to put together a very short, just test track for any kind of actual racing, but just for the sake of trying it out. That's all fine, committee. Take care. So let's try this out, shall we? Anyone here want to try their hand at racing me in this? Well, DNA to the game. See here. A red racer, and then we're going to have a blue racer. We're going to go to settings of the map, and we're going to close off 3 through 6. We're going to upload one at a time. Remus, are you up to the challenge? Do you want to try testing out this with me? No, this is extremely bare bones so far. This is mostly checking out the acceleration parameter. So far, so good. So, here is the general aim I'm trying to go for. That's right. I am planning on having it be kind of a racing game. If you guys are familiar with Mario Kart, I think I've played once, twice, where the idea is you have a track, and you go around the track, and you have the ability to influence the other racers on the track with different abilities. Now, that's secondary, but the real main reason for this is I want to go into kind of process of making for all those people out there Want to make maps, thought about making maps, never made maps. So we're going to start off by making the mechanics we want. No, not all the mechanics, there will be more than them. So, for example, racers. Physical thing that you're moving around the track. That's what we're starting. Then we're going to add in details like a win the race mechanic. Be the first to get to the goal. Now, I don't think I'm going to make the race multi-lap. I think it's going to be a single lap, and it's going to be a decent sized lap. See how it goes. And I do want there to be certain progress points, such as maybe once 3 people pass by a point, then it opens up a shortcut for other people to try to catch up. So, stuff like that. I'll have to see how that goes, but I do want to make all of the assets first, before putting them all together in one. Of course, that does leave room for us to then go in and add the afterwards. Looks like Renus is not going to be joining. That's a very professional name. I wish you could, I don't know, I have to double check if this is a thing or not, but being able to filter by creator. Okay. And like I said, there's going to be abilities and such, so you don't have to worry so much about falling behind. It's not going to be the end of the world. It seems like I might want to decrease the acceleration though, if I want to get the kind of drifting effect I'm going for. Looks like I'm about to be in a particle accelerator. Oh, yep, here we go. It's like a joust. That's a really weird. So I think yeah, decrease the acceleration, but this is going to work the way I want it to, without the angular velocity. I think the angular velocity is better for air and such like that. Okay. And with that, we can hop back into the editor. Let's see how much progress we can make in 40 minutes. Reload dot tests. And with that, we can get rid of these guys, and we can get rid of track here. By the way, for anyone who's questioning what just happened, you have to go to select any of the assets. Let's say you have units, buildings, solid terrain, and little decoration sprites. Maybe something easier to see like this water. So with these, it selects buildings and units first if you're using the select tool. So if you mouse over a large area, it's always going to select buildings and units and not the decorations. If you mouse over things that aren't it, so the solid decorations and the sprites, it's going to only select the solid decorations. If you select just an area with the sprites on the ground, it's going to select the sprites. Now there's a couple things you can do here. You can move these sprites around individually. You're supposed to be able to. But it does not seem to be wanting to let me. You can also hit delete. The delete key will get rid of the assets. Same thing with the solid one, same thing with the here. So, next thing we're going to do is we want to make a win condition. So, what we're going to do here is we're going to make a clone. We're going to do it as a clone of the bird. And we're going to call this finish line. So, the finish line, ready for this one, guys? If you reach the finish line, you win. That's it. So we're going to do a couple things with the finish line. Namely, we're going to give it infinite health. We're going to make it invincible. And it's going to be invisible, but we don't have no-show checked. So just taking a focus down here for a moment. Is invincible. This is going to make the unit indestructible. Nothing can hit it. Nothing can harm it. Nothing can target it either. Is invisible. That's when it has that kind of opacity to it where it's slightly translucent and you need something with detection, that blue eye over its head to see it. And then there's also these other two ones that are also coming into play with these that we're not going to worry about for right now. Actually, I'm going to get rid of the no collision for it. No collision. The unit's not going to collide with anything. What this means is, let's say, in that little demonstration I just had with Renus, his little speed racer ran into my speed racer, or vice versa, and we kind of bounced into each other and then went around. With no collision, it's like there's nothing there. You just move straight through it. You can overlap. You can have 3,000 speed racers at the same time. No issues. And then no-show. With no-show, it's a slightly different thing. So if we go to mage, right? We select the mage and hit no-show. First, let's place a mage on the ground. Now, we're going to hit no-show. It's not drawn. It's still there. But as far as the game is concerned, in terms of rendering, it's not going to actually draw it onto the playing field. It's still there, you just have no way of observing it if you're not in. If you're either not able to select it, or if you're not in editor. So going back to the finish line for a moment. Let's go. We have the finish line. Finish line is this. This bird right here. We're just going to switch it to be player 1. And the idea here is the finish line is going to win the game for you. How is the finish line going to do this? There. Well, let's see here. We're going to want to go to modifiers. And we are going to cannibalize first the healed debuff. Right, that is right. We're going to copy the healed and we're going to call this winning for the ID. Actually, we're going to call this one 1, as in you fully won. You won the race. We want this to be more exciting than this. Excuse me. Excellent. And now we are going to make a second clone, and this time we're going to make it a clone of Heal Aura. Heal Aura. This one is going to be called Winning. So, what I'm doing here, it's an absurdly obnoxious thing. Just finish. I know I said earlier that I was just going to do this for units and buildings, but there's enough of these to make it worthwhile without taking too long. These are all of the modifiers that are currently used in the game, by the way. Well, some are used, some aren't used. Some were used in previous versions. So, I'm going to break this down first by explaining what do the things that I copied do. So, looking at this, we copied first the healed modifier. Right here, healed modifier. This unit is getting healed. For a duration of 2 seconds, it's going to apply 4 regeneration per tick, so to speak. Now, think about this. This by itself does nothing. It needs one of two things to apply it. It either needs an ability to directly apply this modifier to something, or it needs an aura to apply it. Aura is something in the game map. Let's say we take a slow field. You see how it has this thing around it? This thing around the slow field is an aura. Anything within its sphere of influence is going to get slowed down. So, with that in mind, the slow field itself, if we go down to here, the slow field itself doesn't do anything. The only thing the slow field does besides apply the little visual bit there is it applies a modifier. It applies the modifier slowed. The slowed modifier is what actually does something. It's what changes the movement speed in this case. So now we can get rid of this. What we're going to do is going to have the you won the race. We're going to change the description. Congratulations. Fix the spelling. You are the fastest. And we're going to do, right here, we're going to do a duration of 5 seconds. That's going to be -2. We're going to be, yeah, -2. 2. And then modification of 1, that's fine. So, now what we do is we take off hits friendly, hits allied, hit itself. We only want this hitting the enemy. So this aura can only affect enemy units, things that are not on your team or are not you. Okay? So with this in mind, we're also going to change the heal icon. We're going to instead make it the under attack symbol. Sure. Swords, celebrating the fact that you have just one. Okay. By the way, the name of the field here that you would modify, let's say you wanted it to be movement speed, you would have to go into units, so you have to find what the thing is, so in this case, movement speed, and that's how you would input it into the modifier. So let's say I wanted this to instead affect armor. I would go into units, I'd see what it says for armor, it's armor, so you would go to one race in this case, and you would change that to say armor. As an example, let's say we put down, again this is relevant to what we're trying to do here, we're going to modify the slowed effect, and instead we're going to have this Check Speed Racer's armor first. We're going to increase the armor 2, and we're going to change the slowed effect to instead affect armor. Now if we go to test this thing, if it wasn't the same team, just a moment. By the way, for changing team, you have to select the object, and then you can use the drop bar down the bottom right here to change the team. So now it's on team 2, so it should, now it's reducing the armor by 1. Except for the fact that the AI, the blue AI in this case, has nothing keeping it alive, so it immediately got eliminated, so it only gave a single tick of the slowed effect. Bad, everyone wants to play mini games. Great dude, great dude. So, let's say you want to reset something back to what it's supposed to be, back to its base value. Let's say you accidentally changed Archer, and you didn't mean to, and you want to send it back to what the vanilla Archer is supposed to be. You can select the field that you modified and reset on it, and it's going to reset that specific value back to its original stat. In this case, I do want to change the name back to Z-Slowed. So coming back to here, we have winning. We want winning to have, under the aura list here, we want it to apply the 1 modifier. We're going to set it to a range of 3. Okay. And now what we're going to do is actually, we're going to set this to so I have to backpedal 2 seconds. We want this to apply to a massive error, right? Now here's the thing, we don't want this to always be active. We want it to be active only when the player reaches the end. So we're going to have a second modifier that applies it. I'll show you how to do that as we get to it. But for right now, you have that you won the race. Upon getting to the end goal, the finish line, it will trigger an aura that goes across the entire map, that demonstrating the fact that you won. And the fact that you won causes negative health regen on all of your enemies. As your dudes have 2 HP, this means that they will die. Good so far? Sweet. So with this in mind, the next step, we need to add an ability. We're going to do the exact same thing we just did, except this one is going to be crossing the finish line. So this one we're going to say cross, you crossed the finish line. This, excuse me, this is going to be an ability that is always active on your Speed Racer. So almost just reset winning for a second there, that would not have been fun. And we're going to go to here and say crossing. You are crossing. What this one is going to do, this is going to act as a trigger. So while this one, the winning and you have won the race, is going to apply a negative health regen on all enemies. The crossing the finish line is going to apply the crossed modifier, and it's going to affect, let's say, a range of, let's go with 3 in this case. Hits friendly, hits allied. So the cross, we're going to make sure hits allied, hits friendly. And what this one's going to do is it's going to affect mana regeneration. And it's going to add 2. Now this is going to be important in a little bit when we get to adding abilities. So, just to walk through the idea of what we're going for here, we have the finish line. The finish line's over here. You're the racer. As the racer, you want to be the first to cross the finish line. Your racer is constantly outputting a, let's call it a signal. That aura for the crossing the finish line is going to increase the mana regeneration any friendly units around it. So, by the time you cross the finish line, as soon as you get close enough, you're starting to give mana to the finish line. And then it's going to be able to use that mana to cast a spell that's set to auto-cast. And that spell, in turn, is going to cast the aura on itself of U1, which then kills everything that's around. Questions so far? I'll be right back. And I am back. Hello. Oh. Also gonna hop into the LWG Discord voice chat. Anyone wants to hop in too? Yes. So now what we're going to do, deluge, going to go to abilities. We're going to make a new ability, and we're going to base it off of heal. So let's see here. Summon healing word. And we're going to call this P1. Right, they won. They won. They actually won the race. Now, what this ability is going to do, so I can find it, they actually won the race. So universal command, we're going to have it be target is 8. Let's go with instant. What we're going to do is we're going to add a mana cost. So we're going to go here, we're going to say it costs 1 mana. And what to then do is have it, see here, summon units, going to summon healing. Okay. Now we want to make it so it automatically gets casted. Has autocast by default. It's conditions. Say mana greater than 10. So what's going to happen here, theory. Now let's also change the summon units to instead be, it's another thing, healing word. Need to have finish line, we're going to have to have a copy of healing word. What we're going to do with the copy of healing word is, we're going to call it the victory pylon. Because we need additional pylons in this. We're going to be real. Victory pylon. Crossing the line constructs a victory pylon. So, the victory pylon is a copy of good old healing. So, what this is going to do is, it's not going to have any vision, being able to see. This thing exists for one purpose and one purpose only. It is going to have a modifier. It's constantly dealing. Spawn modifiers. It's modifiers the unit gets as soon as it spawns. It's going to constantly give 1 and 1. So, now if we go back to abilities, go back to they actually won the race. I'm going to go down to what units it summons and to have it summon the victory. So now we're going to go back here, we're going to go to the finish line. We're going to make sure that the finish line has more than 10 mana, so it can actually cast the spell. And we're also going to want to add an ability to the finish line. We don't want any of these, you're not going to be controlling the finish line. So we're going to add the actually won, and then to go down to controllable and click it off. So what's next? I'm going to have our bird right here, have some way of telling what it is. I'm going to use their wonderful Christmas gold mines. Beautiful, beautiful Christmas gold mines. And then so we're going to do, we're going to do it on both sides, not all the Christmas trees. Just a little bit of a marker to say, hey, this is where we need both to win. And then we're going to put our other speed racer right here. We're going to set it to team 2. Test. If we get there first, it should take out the enemy. Except for the fact that I forgot to add the crossing the finish line modifier to Speed Racer. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add a spawn modifier here. Add, don't get too big for myself. Right? Do crossed and sing. Test again. I'm going to get rid of the animation so you don't have to see that. And I'm also going to reduce the range. See here, cross gives the mana. In theory, this guy should have died. He didn't die. So we're going to reassess. Now we're going to go over to We're going to go to modifiers. We're going to go to crossing the finish line. And it killed itself. That is not what we want the bird to do. So we're going to go back to finish line. It triggered. This is what we want it to do. We're going to go to the victory pylon. Not give the victory pylon 1. Then we're going to go to ability crossing the race. Now just make sure it's not hitting itself. Let's get rid of this field for right now. Here's the counts. Cooldown. We're going to set the cooldown to 30 seconds. It's a large number. It's fine. It's not required vision. And then we're going to go to modifiers. Winning the race should not hit friendly. It should hit enemies. Should hit enemies, it should not hit self. And now try over it. Does not kill the enemy. Okay. So it's part of the process. In fact, neither of these are actually receiving the penalty. Just the good old bird. So let's try this. Data, to go to modifiers, winning the race, range. We're going to set this down to a smaller 40 for right now. Let's see here. I think I know what it might be. It's because the filter is biological. Let's just go ahead and remove those filters. I'm going to do the same thing over here. We're removing aura target filters. And now it should work. So we go over it. And it kills the enemy. Now, next thing to test. Will the AI trigger my bird? What? Excellent. So, in theory, what we did here, in totality, can actually be used to make a racing game. All of this. So, what we can do, now that we have this done, let's make a rough course. We're going to start off with, hey, this is your starting line. Your goal, go all the way up, go to the right a little bit, come down, curve a little bit, add a little bit of decoration here too at some point. Oh, this is going to be fun here. This is further proof of concept, making sure things work. It's nice wide area here. If anyone here is familiar with the knockback mechanic, that could be a fun ability to have in a racing game. And then goal is to get to right here. Just grab some good old neutral houses. So this is just for demonstration purposes for the moment. Got a nice little bustling town going on. Some more houses too. Don't want them to think about it. Christmas trees are always a pleasant addition. Again, we're not trying to go too wild here, because this is, as I keep saying, testing purposes. Okay. And to finish off this little blurb, to do is we're going to add some wonderful invisible tiles. Those spots that invisible tiles don't fill up perfectly. Resort to the smaller tiles. So you go around, come down, come over to here, make your way over to this part. This side we're going to do a similar thing. Make your way down. Make your way down. Just want to fill in those little gaps. This is going to be easy enough to remove. Okay. Don't want these. And this right here is what I will call prototype of the match. This doesn't have any of the decorations, and it doesn't have any of the fun abilities, tools, other things you might want to use. But in essence, this is a... We're going to have finish line for... Let's say we have this be... Let's go with 4-player thing for right now. Again, this will change. So now we go to 2, put their winner down. We go to 3, we put their winner down. And we go to 4, their winner. Now, only other thing is we want these to be in such a way that everyone can win. They go to the same spot. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do the exact same thing with placing racers down. We're going to go 1, go with 2, going to go with 3, 4. And the very last thing I want to do before stopping this is we're going to go here, go to building, we're going to make a clone of the tower, let's say. Let's go with the tower. Which tower? We're going to call this starting line. And what the starting line is going to do, it's going to be very simple, don't need to worry about modifiers, don't have to worry about any of that. Is first and foremost, not going to have attack, it's going to deal 0 damage, it's going to all of these values set to 0 because it's not going to attack. We're actually going to check off the can attacks. And last thing we're going to do with this is we're going to add a lifetime to it. So lifetime, we're going to give it, let's say, 5 seconds. 5 seconds to get yourself situated. So then we're going to select neutral and select our starting line. No one can cross the starting line until 5 seconds has passed. So we get into it. Now we're in. And then the race can start. Let's see how it does on its own. I think players could handle these turns better. So, especially a turn like over here. So I do need to increase the size of that aura. So we're going to go here, we're going to go to modifiers, we're going to go with this, we're going to change it to a range of 70. Then we're also going to go to the aura itself, and we're going to give it the colors of nothing. Alpha. Alpha is 0.0, let's say. Now, just for the sake of testing the aura, we're going to put this down here. Cool beans. I'm going to have to stop. Things we're going to do is we're going to change this name just slightly. I'm going to call it the Race of a Lifetime. Or the Great Race, let's call it. Just for right now. And hit upload. Let's see here. So she wrote. So next time I keep working on this, feel free to play it, feel free to share it. If you have any questions or suggestions for the map, feel free to let me know. Besides that, thank you guys for watching. Before I stop, I'm just going to also come up to the little progress bar here. And what we're going to do, actually the mouse on there, do here, add progress real. That's as far as the base mechanics, we're not fully done yet. So you can actually see here is progress as intended. I think about 10% of this is going to be mechanics. So, do this. So, change the progress. So mechanics, I think we're about, I'd say comfortable halfway in terms of the progress of the actual mechanics itself. As far as the demo's done. This is a demonstration. Introduction to processing. I would like to include SWOT, so people can see how this map was made, in case they want to try to make maps. They get to see it from start to finish, from making the idea, struggling to get mechanics to work, to solving. I don't think there's any progress on any of the other bits, so I think it's that hard to get. Stay safe, everyone. Good luck with finals.